Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Well, Trinidad and Tobago has its first conviction under the Trafficking in Persons Act. However, the convict, which is Anthony Smith, well, he's missing. Yes, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service actually cannot find him after there was a signal from his ankle bracelet, which he was mandated to wear according to a court order. Well, that ankle bracelet somehow was tampered with, and now he absconded in terms of his sentencing. But exactly, is this something to celebrate? Yes, the first person is convicted, but you have an individual with multiple charges against them on the run from the Trans-Tobago Police Service, and yet we held a press conference to celebrate this achievement. Well, speak a bit more about this morning as I welcome to the program former opposition Senator Marsha Walker, and she's with us via Zoom. She's also, by the way, that's just one of her many titles of which she's held, because she is an advocate, a child's rights advocate actually, and she's with us via Zoom. Good morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning.
I laughed when you said, is it something to celebrate?
That's actually my very first question, because the Minister of National Security, he held a press conference. He said despite the absconding of Smith, that it was actually good news for Trinidad and Tobago and even reflects well in regards to our international reputation.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. I am not 100% sure when the next US State Department report is due to come out. I honestly don't think that they will look at this in a good light. The last report, they would have said that, even though we put laws in place, which was the last time in the last administration, that was the last time we had an improvement in our rating. But since, of course, the legislation that was put into place in 2012, nothing, came out of it. I think 2011, we had an amendment in 2012. But nothing has come out of it. And the US has continued to say in the report that senior officials, high-ranking officials, remain complicit. That, to me, in this particular case, if you read the media release from the judiciary, it's very telling, because the last line, the very last line, the judiciary says that, they passed over the transcript of the case because the victim would have testified that some of the Mr. Smith's clients were police officers. That, of course, raises a lot of questions. The counter-trafficking unit, they would have taken a statement from the victim in November of 2015. So in November of 2015, I'm certain they would have tried to figure out, okay, who are your clients? Who's Mr. Smith's clients? You're not just going to go after Smith himself, right? You're going to say, you're trying to figure out who is the big fish. You're trying to, make a deal to figure out if you could go higher up the chain. And somewhere along the line, I'm certain in 2015, the fact that, his clients included police officers should have come out. So, that's a question that I certainly think the media needs to be pushing. What's going on? I can't believe that only now, after the transcript of, this 2023 hearing, only now an investigation, is being launched into these officers. I cannot believe that. So if you really study the case, I think that puts us, I don't know, I think it puts us in a worse position. Yes, there is something to celebrate that we've finally gotten a conviction. But, there's so many questions around this conviction that I can't see the US celebrating the way that the minister celebrated.
Well, you're surprised, and I'm not, because I'm thinking this is Trinidad and Tobago. Very unfortunate.
It's frustrating.
It is very frustrating because it's rather absurd, isn't it, that you call a press conference to celebrate the first conviction, but then the individual, the subject, is not there. But it also reflects on multiple aspects of the police service. For example, what's going on with the ankle bracelet there and that unit of the TTPS?
Yeah. No, if you, I mean, I really try to study as much information as that we have in the public domain. This girl would have dropped out of school in 2014. So the crimes were committed against her from 2014 to 2015, right? So, she would have dropped out of school. The press release says that, various information tells us she'd have dropped out of school. So where was the Ministry of Education at that point in time? And I'm thinking in 2023, there are school dropouts with thousands of children who have dropped out of school. The Ministry of Education admits that in many cases, they cannot find the child. And of course, we know, given COVID and everything, that the economic situation has caused that, increase in school dropout. So there's a trend, right? You saw that this girl dropped out of school, answered an ad to work in a bar, and that's how grooming takes place. Before trafficking, there is grooming. So where was the Ministry of Education? Why didn't the Ministry of Education pursue this child who had dropped out of school? And I hope that this situation makes our Ministry of Education really buck up in finding children that have dropped out of school. Whether it be we put out, the same way we have missing persons ads, we have to find the children that have dropped out of school. Because had the Ministry of Education done their job in 2014, I'm saying 2014, whether it be 2013, 2014, but had they pursued this child, then, maybe that would have been the first step to preventing it, because we would have gotten her back in school. At the time, the Children's Authority was just legislation. It wasn't operationalized yet. So I can't necessarily point fingers at the Children's Authority. Of course, we could say, had the legislation been in place earlier. But, this is where, to me, this is the first place that the powers that be dropped the ball. And that, that I know Hines and they and we tend to politicize these issues. So I know they'll say, well, that was a UNC Minister of Education. It doesn't matter who it is. We need to put things in place, and we have to learn from the situation. The first point where we can save our children from ending up, from being trafficked, if they drop out of school, we have to make a concerted effort to find them. And that, for me, is what I'm very worried about, because in 2023, we have children that have dropped out of school. And, the Minister of Education, the current Minister of Education, is saying that you can't find them. And that's not good enough. That response is not good enough, especially given this case. We now know for sure school dropouts can be groomed. Poverty can lead them into doing things that they don't want to do. Now we do have a Children's Authority, because using that particular case, again, what would have happened is the mother should have, been paid a visit, because this child was obviously not living with the mother, because of, again, that's information in the public domain, right? She was given accommodation somewhere in east of Trinidad. So the mother should be charged with neglect or something like that. There's a lot of information that we don't know with regards to this case, but we can certainly learn from it. So in, a school dropout, we need to visit, find out why the child not living with the parent, where's the child living? These are the things that, because we need to move to preventing. So that's one thing. It really, really, really reflects badly on the judicial system. Things that should have taken 3 months, that in every other country takes 3 months, it takes 3 years. And so, again, in the politicizing of it all, people will say, well, look, is UNC lawyers fighting for bail? And yes, we are fighting for bail, because it isn't right that somebody sits for 7, 8 years waiting on a trial date. So that's why we do have to put things like, ankle bracelets and whatnot in place. But yeah, you're right. These ankle bracelets and whatnot need to work. But I think the judicial system needs to work so that, 3 months does not become 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Get the cases pushed through, especially something like this, where it is, we are on the brink of being blacklisted. We are on the last tier, the tier 2 watch list for human trafficking, but trafficking in persons, based on the US State Department report and whatnot. And, so we should have wanted to really push it through. Now we saw that happen in 2013. So after it went through the magistrate's court, and the court said, okay, look, you need to stand trial at the High Court and whatnot. So throughout, he was on bail, and he had different, he kept going back to. So I'm thinking, as a lawyer here, I don't know what it was, but basically, it would say, well, listen, it's been 2 years, it's been 3 years, we can't be in jail, so let's do something. Then, okay, can't be 24 hours house arrest because you're messing with my income, so let's do something else. And of course, that's where the timeliness, affects it, because the longer we take, it becomes a human rights issue. The person has to be allowed to work. How can we allow them to work? So we put this ankle bracelet on and whatnot, right? Okay. But in February, I could double check the media release, but I'm nearly certain. In February of this year, you had, it reached to the High Court, and they began this case management system, where the judge would have gone through, you all have everything ready, you all have your witnesses, you have your evidence, right? And you give him a date. And I think the date was set in April. They got a date for September.
Mm-hmm.
I think that at that point, we really, somebody needs to be speaking out against that judge, because at that point, bail would have come up, the issue for bail would have come up again. And the magistrate must have been able to, case management has happened. So you've seen the file, and you know that you're going to go to trial in September. So there's nothing stopping the magistrates at that point in time to say, okay, you've had your 7 years, you've worked, you've had your freedom, the case is about to start, revoke your bail. And that is why, we always say we're not asking for bail, it's not like mandatory bail. We're saying that there should be a right to apply for bail. So, okay, he's gotten bail, he's been out, but from the time the trial has gone to the High Courts, from the time the case management has started, the committal, that whole process, the judge should have at that point said, bail revoked, spend a few months in jail, wait for your trial. Every single day.
Ms. Walker, let me just interrupt for a moment there, because even in regards to bail is one thing, but going back to the issue of the electronic monitoring unit of the Ministry of National Security, and focusing on that just for a moment, he was wearing an ankle bracelet, and that was an order from the High Court. And then what takes place is that at the trial, and reporters did ask about this actually during this press conference. They actually asked a question to Woman Police Corporal Dane Marie Marshall in regards to any suggestions that there were police officers who were actually involved in illegal activity as part of this case. She paused for a moment. She didn't know how to respond. She said she was confused by the question. The Minister of National Security had to interject. His response was in regards to the police having to defend themselves. So, okay, we're speaking about bail,
and
but
what is
even the gap between the time of the High Court ruling, he has to wear this bracelet, to the time his trial began on September 18th, it seems as though the TTPS, I don't know what was going on there. I don't know how they were functioning, but clearly they're incapable of actually even running an EMU.
Yeah. No, and that's why I feel as though the U.S. will not celebrate this victory. They will not count it as a victory. There are definite questions. In the press release, it was very interesting, in the press conference, it was very interesting that, the female officer, when she was giving her account, she spoke about foreign national and whatnot, right? But she never spoke about the fact that the last client of Mr. Smith was a police officer. He never gave that information. These kinds of, and it could only sound like a cover-up, and we have to be careful, right? The entire world is looking on, because we more and more we're being seen as a space, as a uncontrolled space for these sex acts, right? From our Google, we were number 3 in the world for Googling porn. And then as we go down, it seems as though we're not going down because we no longer have an appetite for porn, but because we have, prostitution comes to your door for $100, for $300, because it's just so easily available, So the appearance where, you know, the police officer who spoke at the press conference didn't come out and say, listen, we had police officers that were involved. And maybe if she had said that, you know, that would have prompted the media at that point in time to right then and there ask, are any investigations underway with regards to the clients that were police officers? Because we're seeing now that police officers were clients of Mr. Smith, and his ankle bracelet goes missing.
It's all too
Convenient.
isn't it? Yes, convenience is the correct word. I'm not going to even say coincidental. It's convenient. And now, tying back the situation to the number of charges and the point that you were making about the Minister of Education, let me just tie something in here for a moment, something that's completely separate but actually adds to the point. Ms. Walker, this is just one case, but if you take a look, if we're speaking generally about children out there, if you drive up and down the highway, you see many a times children actually who are out of school, and the argument is, well, we can't afford to send them to school. Now, that's an issue in itself. But children are out of school, working up and down the highway to sell products, and you have adults, many times I see them, sitting under the tree shading. But I am certain...
Which is an illegal act.
Exactly. So I'm certain that the TTPS passes and sees these things taking place. And I'm certain that Trinidad is a small nation, that the Ministry of Education must be aware that this is taking place. So all around, it's a complete breakdown in our systems.
It is. Absolutely. I mean, look at the PH system. When we spoke about regularizing the PH system, let's go to COVID. When we spoke about, you know, the PH and Stuart Young at the time, I think it was Stuart Young, he said that was part of the fabric of society. You know, that to me really summed up Trinidad and Tobago. We normalize illegal activity. Illegal activity, breaking the law, has become a fabric of society. And we have to get, there's no point, and you know, sometimes, I mean, obviously, as a parliamentarian myself, we go into parliament, we talk about laws, and then I wonder, you know, are we wasting time? Because if we're not going to enforce it, then what's the point? What's the point of spending all that money on electricity for the Red House to turn on, for us to come in there? And the laws seem to be nothing but paper, you know, cobweb catching.
Mm-hmm. It's just about a week since this particular press conference was held. It's just been a week. We have no updates thus far in regards to this police search for Anthony Smith. And I don't know.
It's gone. You know, they are depending on that 90 memory, you know. So, but I would like the media to continue to push. You know, I really want the media to continue to push. We need to know about the police officers. We have to find out. Because what's interesting is that the judiciary said that, you know, the transcript went to the counter-trafficking unit. It was the same unit that would have started the investigation in 2015. You know, why didn't it go to, you know, the commissioner of police? You know, we need to know what's the deal with his clients. Mm-hmm. Because those people also broke the law. Those people also had sex with a minor. Those people also paid to have sex with a minor. So they were involved in trafficking. We had police officers, right? That's one thing we know for sure. And we cannot let up, you know, we cannot stop. We have to continue. And, you know, I really beg the media to continue to push and press what's going on with the police officers that were clients, the police officers that raped this little girl. We need to know what's going on with them. And the report says there are senior government officials, high-ranking officials involved in human trafficking, right? And if we cannot even investigate the police officers that we know that police officers had sex with this little girl. You know, this does not augur well. It really does not augur well. Will victims come forward now? Because this little girl's life is in danger. We need to know, is she being protected? What's the state's track record to protect witnesses?
Ms. Marsha Walker, in 2016, he applied for bail. He was granted $2 million bail, which is incredible that he was able to even make $2 million in bail, but that probably just goes to show you the extent of his operations. Bear in mind, he was the operator of a bar as well. But apart from this, this is really interesting. His attorney at law, Kristen J. Williams, assured the Justice I.S. Caesar that his client would not abscond because he noted that his client was making himself available on a weekly basis.
Yeah. No, so the client, and that's why I was speaking about bail and each step of the way. Okay, so he stayed because he probably thought, listen, I am not going to be the unlucky fool to be convicted. This happens in Trinidad every day and nobody gets convicted. So once he was out on bail, once he was able to work, he was happy. He didn't need to leave Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad is a land of getaway free. So that's why I believe, there was no need at that point in time. He attended court again because these things, you reach the court and your first day, and then you ain't see court again for 10 years. So I think that he depended on the failure of our system. I think by day 2 and day 3, when he realized he was going to be convicted, that's when things changed. And that's why I said, the issue of bail would have come up every single day. So day 1 of court, day 2 of court, the judge must have known. The same way he knew, listen, this thing coming down to the end, I'm going to be Trinidad's first convicted. The judge should have said at that point, we are revoking your bail, spend some time in prison and wait for the trial to finish in prison.
Ms. Walker, we have more or less out of time.
I think that's the part where we really, really fell down. We gave him his 7 years, his 8 years to continue to do what he was doing. But from the time you started to hear evidence, day 1, day 2, that bail should have been revoked.
I think what's also interesting to note is back in 2016, he was ordered to surrender his passport as part of bail conditions. But as you said, this is TNT. He's most likely gone. Yeah, he's most likely gone. Yeah. You don't need a passport to enter or exit TNT.
This person makes a living trafficking people. So he probably knows how to get persons in and out illegally. He would be part of that underworld where he knows which boat to jump in, where to jump in, how to disappear, because he knows how to make women disappear. He must have been considered high risk. Must have been. We don't live, it's not a matter of he has to have a private jet. We live in Trinidad and Tobago on an island where people come in through illegal means all the time.
Ms. Walker, we're going to have to end it there for now, but thank you very much for your time and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you guys for keeping this conversation up.
Certainly. Well, I'm waiting for updates from the Trans-Tobago Police Service, as I'm sure you are and the rest of Trans-Tobago as well, because a 9-year memory, well, it's our responsibility to ensure that these conversations continue. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a good day. Ms. Marsha Walker joining me this morning on AM Prime. The disappearance of TNT's first convicted human trafficker. The story is just all too convenient. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Christmas is around the corner, and you can tell the decorations are up, everybody's putting up their lights, and, well, I see a lot of people already dancing and singing to parents randomly in the streets, which is a good thing. A lot of positives with this. But Digicel is making Christmas wishes come true through Digicel Foundation's Christmas community activities. And this morning, WESN and AM Prime is pleased to welcome Ms. Cindy Ann Currency. She's the head of operations at the Digicel Foundation to speak about the activities this Christmas. She's with us via Zoom. Hello there, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to tell you about this new initiative for Christmas.
I'm excited as well. Tell me, how are you guys making my Christmas wishes come true?
Well, we do have a few grants to give out. We have 5 grants at $25,000 each that you get a chance to get one of these grants to put it into a passion project of yours. But because we like to mix things up a little bit at the Digicel Foundation, we're trying to make things really fun, very exciting, very dynamic, get into that whole Christmas spirit. We've charted it in such a way where we have a treasure hunt that's attached to the selection process of how we give out these 5 grants. So we've launched the registration for the treasure hunt yesterday on the 8th, and it's going to stay open until the 22nd. You have a slew of challenges to do. There's 4 challenges actually, but we've made it quite fun and interesting. And that treasure hunt will take place on the 2nd of December, right? Once you do your challenges and you've completed, you collect your treasure at the Digicel store. And we'll give all of the instructions along the way because, you want to make it exciting. You want to kind of build the momentum a bit. So everything is really happening online via our Instagram page. And you get your instructions and everything on social media on the day on December 2nd. You collect your treasure after you've completed your 4 challenges. And then that takes you one step closer to how you can now acquire this $25,000 grant towards a passion project.
Oh my goodness, treasure and treasure hunt. That sounds very exciting, actually. And that's one way to wake me up because now I'm excited. I'm a little bit pumped. But tell me, who can participate in this treasure hunt?
So because we wanted to manage the entrance a little bit, we decided to do it just for Instagram on our Instagram page. And so we're encouraging media and social media influencers who have but initially yesterday we launched, we said 20,000 followers. But we had an overwhelming response since then. And we had some feedback and some questions and some real compelling cases. And so we've decided to drop that a bit and just make it a little wider for other people to enter. And so if you have over 12,000 followers on Instagram, you can enter this competition. You have to be a national of Trinidad and Tobago. We're looking for 12,000 followers. This is an Instagram-only competition. So we're encouraging media and social media influencers. If you have a passion project that you think this could really make your wish come true, $25,000 is a good way to go. We're encouraging you to enter.
Well, that's the thing. I think I'm going to have to start an Instagram account now and try and get 12,000 followers in 10 days.
Well, it's a good place to start, actually. So, I mean, the challenges are really exciting. I can't tell you about them, of course, because that's part of the competition. But really and truly, we're encouraging persons to, you know, just do something fun, encourage other people to be fun with you, and take it from there. And you have a chance because, you know, it just brings you one step closer to that $25,000 goal.
Why the focus on influencers and passion projects? This is something that is a bit different, especially passion projects.
Right. So last year we actually did this, and it was really very cool. We had with meet journalists as well as influencers, and it's interesting to note that we have so many of our influencers who are really trying to make a difference in their communities, right? And when I say passion project, this can actually be a social enterprise. It can be maybe you want to donate towards a charity of your cause. Maybe you want to do something good for somebody else, you know? So we have actually tried to find ways to meet people where they are. And a lot of our social media influencers and media journalists actually reach out to us to support. But usually at the Digicel Foundation, we only partner with registered nonprofit organizations. So this is an opportunity for other persons to enter during our Christmas time.
Digicel Foundation is focusing on giving, of course, to communities. My final question to you this morning, thanks for joining me, is in regards to the opportunity it actually brings. As you mentioned, it's change and it's charity. But let's speak a bit about the opportunity.
Let's speak a bit about the opportunity.
Let's speak a little bit about that opportunity in regards to, yes, that charity that you speak about, that change making for communities.
All right. So we are going to brief the groups a bit to let them know, the applicants, a bit to let them know what types of projects we're looking at. But we actually want them to tell us what's important to them, right? Because that's also important. Making Christmas wishes come true. It is about your wish and how we can help you achieve that, right? But we do want to get the best and to get some innovation in there. So the types of projects that we're thinking of would be social enterprises. It could be something that generates an income, but we want to know, how does that impact your community? How does it impact your society? We are looking at persons who might want to donate towards a charity. You know, we have lots of causes around there. Breast cancer, we have pediatric cancer. I mean, some people might want to do things towards epilepsy or anything that's important to you, and everybody has something that's important to them, right? Because, you know, we bring our whole selves to everything every single day. We're also looking at, if you just want to maybe donate some devices to a school in your community, you know, to some children at need. These are some of the things that we're looking at. But the opportunity really comes at the end. And what we want to encourage people right now to do is to register to participate in the treasure hunt. Registration is now open. We've now adjusted the criteria from 20K followers to 12K. It's going to close up on the 2nd of November, and then gear up, get ready for the it's going to close up on the 22nd of November, and gear up and get ready for the 2nd of December, when we will have the treasure hunt, and you will get all of your details, and we are going to make it as exciting. I mean, if you've ever done anything with us before at the Digicel Foundation, know that we come really good. We try to make things as exciting and as innovative, and everybody walks away feeling like a winner.
Well, Ms. Currency, thank you so much for joining me this morning, and thank you to the Digicel Foundation, and looking forward to all the excitement that's to come in the next few weeks. Thanks a lot, and have a great one ahead.
Open up that Instagram account so you can.
I hope you'll follow me. That's at least one off the list. Have a great one. Take care. All the best. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break on the program.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's, WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen, and let's just get into some regional updates this morning, starting with St. Lucia, where Prime Minister Philip J. Pear has vowed to address the lingering shadow of the ORC and impacts, pledging his administration's unwavering commitment to resolving his long-standing issue. The National Security Minister explains that reforming and equipping the police force are part and parcel of this overarching goal. This report from St. Lucia.
Prime Minister Philip J. Pear, the third head of government of St. Lucia, to be burdened by the impacts report into the extrajudicial killings at the hands of the police in 2010 to 2011, says his administration is committed to doing all within its powers to resolve this long-standing issue.
I could make a solemn pledge to the men and women of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. I will maintain the separation of powers, but I will also see what I can do, and I will try. I will not promise. I've had discussions with several people about the impact report. I understand the plight of the men who their life is in limbo. I understand the plight. But I can say to you, it is not easy, but we are trying. In the cabinet, we are trying. And I hope that we can resolve these issues. But for the cheap and desperate politicians and the surrogates who want to use it as what they think is a whip against this government, it will not work. because the people of St. Lucia know that existed a long time before this government.
Prime Minister Pierre was recently questioned by a filmmaker about what was said to be the imminent arrests of 2 policemen for their involvement in one of the shootings and the possible implication of a minister in his cabinet. The Prime Minister declined to answer the question on the grounds that he never comments on any ongoing investigation. The minister who's been implicated has since denied any involvement in that incident. Prime Minister Pierre says some of the people making public comments on addressing the findings of the impacts investigations were in a position to address the matter, but they did not.
Impact report is not my being. I didn't create the impact report. The Prime Minister before me had a copy of the impact report. I'm not the only one who had a copy of the impact report. Why all suddenly the impact report has become my cross? It was there before me. It was there for the last 5 years. They had it for the last 5 years. All the contents of the impact report and all the action that has to be taken on the impact report could have been done in the last 5 years.
The alleged extrajudicial killings between 2010 and 2011 and the failure of successive administrations to adequately address the matter resulted in the United States government suspending cooperation on security with St. Lucia and the banning of senior police officers from traveling to America. The punitive measures against St. Lucia were partially suspended in mid-2021, with the Director of Public Prosecution issuing a statement on impacts on the dawn of the July 26, 2021 general elections. Prime Minister Pierre says impacts is unfinished business from previous administrations, which he has inherited.
It's not my baby. I didn't create it, but I'll try to solve it. The same way I did not create the conditions under which the men and women of the police force worked, but I am going to solve it. That is why we have brand new headquarters for the Grove City Police Station. And I'm going to continue to solve the issues for the men and women of the police service. I'm going to continue.
The extrajudicial killings of 2010 to 2011 during Operation Restore Confidence was then Prime Minister Stephenson King's administration's response to the sharp rise in lawlessness and murders in St. Lucia. The measure drew strong criticism from human rights advocates and then opposition and the government of the United States. The killings at the hands of the police and the handling of the subsequent investigations have cast long shadows over the police and all administrations since.
These issues that islands throughout the Caribbean are facing. Trinidad and Tobago, of course, the scrutiny in regards to operations by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We see that also in St. Lucia in regards to the impacts report. But the Prime Minister is making that promise that he will do all that is in his power to ensure that the police are well equipped, and that even in regards to training, well, we'll see what happens there. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break on the program. And when we return, I'll welcome my third and final guest for this edition of AM Prime. We'll be right back.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. CARICOM and Foreign Affairs Minister to advocate for resolution in Palestine-Israel conflict. 5-year-old girl left in hot vehicle, recovering well, says authorities. Corporal and 5 police constables face interview in money allegations probe. Regionally, state of emergency declared in St. James, Jamaica amid escalating violence. Now for the details. Dr. Amory Brown, the head of government business in the Senate and the Minister of CARICOM and Foreign Affairs, has declared his intent to vigorously advocate for a resolution to the Palestine-Israel conflict during an upcoming meeting of the CARICOM Council for Foreign and Community Relations scheduled for Wednesday. This statement came in response to a matter raised during the Senate's adjournment on Tuesday by Independent Senator Anthony Vieira. The issue at hand pertains to the provision of assistance to nationals residing in the Middle East who are vulnerable due to the intensifying conflict between Gaza and Israel. In his address, Senator Vieira expressed deep concern over the distressing pain and suffering experienced by individuals on both sides of the conflict.
This conflict doesn't just threaten security and stability in and around Gaza. If left unchecked, it can escalate into a greater war, which would be extremely dangerous. In the event, I am concerned about our nationals in the Middle East who may be at risk by the escalating conflict. Accordingly, I call on the government to continue working with CARICOM and other responsible members of the international community in pressing for an immediate ceasefire, for the provision of life-saving assistance to those in need, and for all steps to be taken that would reduce the chances for a wider regional war.
A 5-year-old girl who was rushed to the hospital after being unintentionally left in a vehicle for 2 hours is reported to be making significant progress in her recovery. Hospital authorities have indicated that she is expected to be discharged later this week. The child, currently under the care of the San Fernando General Hospital, has been transferred out of the intensive care unit and is now placed under observation. Her initial admission to the medical facility followed an unfortunate incident that occurred around 2 p.m. on October 29th near Queen Anne Road in Superior. The child's family had been attending a funeral at the Superior Seventh-day Adventist Church when a female relative responsible for the child and other children unintentionally left her in the vehicle. A corporal and 5 police constables are slated to undergo interviews today as part of an ongoing investigation into accusations of receiving money from an individual they had arrested. According to a report, a team of officers from the Interagency Task Force and the Guard and Emergency Branch, operating under the oversight of the Professional Standards Bureau, conducted a visit to the Arouca Police Station on Tuesday with the purpose of apprehending the officers. All of the implicated officers are currently assigned to the Northern Central Division Task Force and are facing allegations of receiving money from an individual they had apprehended, reportedly in exchange for his release. These allegations, as stated by a senior police source, are being regarded as potential misconduct. Regionally, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has officially announced the imposition of a state emergency in St. James, just days after the tragic murders of 2 schoolboys in the parish. The Prime Minister revealed this development during a post-cabinet press briefing at Jamaica House. The decision to declare the state of emergency comes in response to a surge in gun-related violence and notably the shooting deaths of 3 individuals, including 2 schoolboys, on Monday in the Western Parish. Holness emphasized the government's unwavering commitment to addressing the escalating violence, stating, "We will not wilt, we will not resile in the face of terror." The declaration of the SOE, which came into effect at midnight, was made following a recommendation by the security forces. This move reflects the government's determination to restore peace and security in the affected region. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thank you for watching.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for making the time to be with us this morning. Last week, Friday, Jamaica's central bank, known as the Bank of Jamaica, said it was suspending the exchange of Trinidad and Tobago banknotes at its counter effective until further notice. Now, we heard from the Bank of Jamaica as they issued an update on their website stating that the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago suspended the arrangements for the repatriation of TT dollars until further advice. And in fact, it notified that the Central Bank Governor of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Alvin Hilaire, was in Kingston last week, Thursday and Friday. Now, the reactions since this news came out has been, well, Trinidadians are panicking. They're wondering exactly what's taking place. What does it mean for the TT dollar? And there have already been some responses, but the majority of us might not truly understand. There is an individual, though, whose reaction, I must admit, surprised me. But that's a very good thing, because you need to get an all-round understanding. He's a former professor of applied economics and a former university director at the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute of Social and Economic Studies, Professor Emeritus Patrick Kent Watson. Good morning, Professor Watson, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Keaton. It's always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to be here.
Well, Professor Watson, as I mentioned, your reaction surprised me. It took me back because you seemed interestingly just calm, saying that this isn't necessarily news. Please explain.
Let me start by saying this represents a minuscule amount of money. And the reason for that is, in many respects, we are not allowed to take the Trinidad and Tobago dollar outside to give to anybody. There may be an understanding between economically friendly nations that we will take each other's currencies and we would then hand them back. And what you have to do, if Jamaica hands back this money, it would have to be given in exchange for foreign currency, US currency. If we have Jamaican currency, which we may have, they may wish to take that. The important point to understand is as well that Trinidad and Tobago, by that time in the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, they are not obliged to accept Trinidad and Tobago dollars. And I hear, and this is not necessarily something done by fact, is that the Trinidad and Tobago has stopped itself dealing in taking in Jamaican dollars. I don't know if it's a tit for tat. But the point you just made, though, is that the Bank of Trinidad and Tobago could very well tell not just the Bank of Jamaica, but all banks, we are not going to honor you with foreign exchange if you give us Trinidad and Tobago dollars. So if this is 100,000 Trinidad and Tobago dollars, that may not matter. But the way I understand it, they have accumulated quite a lot. I don't know how this happens, because you're not supposed to accept Trinidad and Tobago dollars outside of Trinidad and Tobago. It's not legal tender. It's not an accepted medium of exchange in foreign countries. But if you feel that you can get it back, you can get the exchange back from Trinidad and Tobago, you will take it. And that seems to have been going on with Jamaica. some people have told me that this is probably a lot of the students who are at Mona. So you could imagine they don't go there with their suitcases full of money. It's a little bit, it's a little bit of money. But it could reach a point if the Bank of Jamaica takes too long where the Trinidad and Tobago would say, look, we are not going to give you, suppose you come, I'm exaggerating here, with 100 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. That's a sizable amount of US dollars I'll have to give you for that. And I could tell you in nice words, no, go to hell, I am not taking that. So it's a risk that they take when they do that. Because as I say, this is not legal tender internationally. Like in a way the US dollar is, the pound sterling is. You don't want to have to hold on to Trinidad and Tobago dollars, and you want to get rid of it. So it's a normal thing if Jamaica shuts it down for its own reasons, because they feel that they have accumulated much, and that Trinidad and Tobago may be a little bit peeved by having to pay that amount. Or, as you just mentioned, that the Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, that's the central bank, we have told them, stop doing that. We probably will not want to honor it. So but I'm saying that we do have a foreign exchange problem, and every little bit counts, and especially every big bit counts. You don't want to have people finding ways around using foreign currency by taking Trinidad and Tobago dollars out of the country and somebody else accepting it. That is not, the central bank is not going to be pleased in the long run with that. If we could all do that, and I leave here and I go to the US with 100, it's not going to be allowed. They're going to stop you at the airport if they know that you have that amount. But imagine I could take the maximum amount, which I think is $10,000, and then I get that change in Jamaica, in the US, and so on. That's going to be a lot of money coming back to take foreign exchange out. And the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, the Bank of Barbados, the Bank of Jamaica, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, they are not going to be happy with this kind of thing. And they can and have known to, in the past, to refuse to honor the local currency coming in from outside. Let me say, this is a precautionary measure by both the Bank of Jamaica and the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. And it's a warning in a way to people to stop doing that, to stop doing it. But I see that this is nothing in the scheme of things and does not warrant a big discussion among the top businesses of the country. And everybody is responding as if this is a loss of interest in the Trinidad and Tobago dollar or something in the economy. That may also be true, but that is not the reason here, because there's a lot of trade between Trinidad and Jamaica, and that trade is largely done in US dollars. That's how it's done. We pay each other in the US currency. It's a long time now, in fact, since the 80s, when they had what they call the CARICOM Multilateral Clearing Facility, that we did not really accept each other's currency, but we used to sort of balance each other and then pay the residual amount to anybody. But that is not what is happening here. We trade with all the CARICOM countries in US dollars, and that is what we trade in. So the money we make in Jamaica is made in US dollars. The Trinidad and Tobago dollar being in Jamaica is an anomaly. And I am not sure how they get there, but I suspect, and someone from Jamaica has suggested to me, that it's the students on the Mona campus who are largely responsible. And you can imagine they are not going to be going there with bucketfuls of money. And in the final analysis, this is a minuscule amount of money, not worth the talk and the worry that I'm hearing.
Well, it's actually gathered a lot of talk because quite a number of individuals have linked it back to a situation in 2016, because I know you focused on the foreign currency issue here in Trinidad as well, where Trinidad and Tobago businessmen were purchasing Jamaican dollars using the TT dollar and then purchasing US currency. And so that is why it's gathered a lot of conversation as well, as it links back to our foreign exchange shortfall. Others have raised the issue of a similar situation in Grenada, in Guyana, where they're not accepting the TT dollar anymore.
Yes. Let me take an example of someone who will always continue to accept the TT dollar. The CARICOM market vendors, let me call them that, those who come to Port of Spain to sell Dashin and so on. And even them, I'm sure they would prefer the US dollars because they take the TT dollar because they're going to be spending it here. They're not going to try to spend it in St. Vincent or Grenada. So they accept the TT dollar here, and they're happy to accept it because they're doing their shopping here, right in Port of Spain, because some of the things they want are available cheaper in Trinidad and Tobago. It's available more readily in Trinidad and Tobago. So they do their shopping here. So when they sell their produce, which we all consume, the dashin and the yam in particular, well, the yam in particular, I should say, they are happy to accept Trinidad and Tobago dollars. Not because they're going to go back and give it to their wife to go on in the market or anything like that. No, because they're spending it right here. And if you are accepting Trinidad and Tobago dollars, the only place you can spend it without any bother is in Trinidad and Tobago. If you try to spend Trinidad and Tobago dollars in Guyana, it's not going to work. Now, if Guyana has a lot of trading dealings with Trinidad and Tobago businessmen, and you give them TT dollars and the Trinidad and Tobago trader accepts the TT dollars, that's fine. If they start wanting US dollars instead, you are going to have a problem. And that is something like that has been happening in Guyana, so that we are passing through Guyana to get the foreign currency, because some will accept the Trinidad and Tobago dollar because they're going to be using it in Trinidad and Tobago. If the point arrives when the central bank says no more of that, you are not going to continue that activity. That is what is going to happen.
What is more so interesting to me is that, and I get what you're explaining, but this is why your response was most intriguing to me, because your response contrasts the general response. Others suggesting that there may be an insignificant demand for the TT dollar by Jamaica, which it's suggesting waning confidence by certain Jamaican economic agents in the Trinidad and Tobago economy. So, based on what you're saying this morning, are we over-analyzing the situation?
It's not that what you're saying is not true, that people are losing confidence in the Trinidad and Tobago economy. And in fact, it may be an indication of the weakening of the Trinidad and Tobago economy that the Jamaicans are no longer willing to accept the Trinidad and Tobago dollar, because we do have a crisis, or a looming crisis, I should say, and one that, in order to forestall it, we are not going to continue. I'm not saying we, I mean the government of Trinidad and Tobago, I am not really that. The Trinidad and Tobago government is not going to continue anything that is going to put a drain on its foreign exchange. All of us have difficulty getting foreign exchange when we are traveling. If you allow people a way of circumventing this control of the Trinidad and Tobago foreign exchange, sooner or later the government is going to put a stop to that. Take, for instance, the use of credit cards or debit cards. When I travel, well, I haven't traveled for almost a year now, but when I travel, I don't even bother to go to the banks anymore to ask for the measly $200 that they have. I take my debit card and I withdraw pounds. That's where I went. I went to England and I withdraw pounds with my debit card. And I have my monthly limit on it, and that suits me. I'm not going there to buy a Rolls Royce or anything like that. And similarly with my credit card, I pay goods and services with my credit card. In fact, in some places they don't like to accept cash at all. In France, where I went when I visited, I was in Paris, and to buy one metro ticket to go from A to B, they are not accepting cash. They want you to use your credit card. So I'm spending €5 and tapping my card on their machine for €5 because they're not accepting the cash. I went to a place in Leicester Square, which is a sort of food fair where they were selling all kinds of folksy things. And I love English fudge, so I wanted to get some fudge. and I pulled out my £5, and the woman said, no, she don't want £5, and she wants her credit card. So I then had to pull out my credit card. The story about this is that I can use my credit card in England, and I can use my debit card, and I am then circumventing what they are doing. So what do you think is going to happen is that they're going to start, and that has already started, lowering the limits on what you can use. Now, as I say, you see me spending £5 for my fudge and €5 for my Paris Metro ticket. But those who are spending €5,000 and they have that limit on their cards, that is, a lot of people doing that, you're going to have a trouble. Now, I can tell you that one of my cards gives me a lot of foreign exchange leeway. And I have been hearing stories that people who have been attempting to use their cards abroad they have not been able to, because the bank is preventing it from happening, and not because you have reached your limit, they simply stop it from happening. That is a reality that we are going to face more and more. You are probably born too late, and I don't know if you have studied it to remember what happened in 1993, when the capital account was liberalized and we were able, for the first time in our lives, to use credit cards abroad. We had the right to use credit cards in Trinidad and Tobago, but we couldn't use it abroad. So everybody now could go abroad and use their credit cards. And the period before that was one where, when I started traveling on university business around that time, and I go to a hotel, I was ashamed. They used to ask me to pay up front. So I used to, do you know of something called a traveler's check? You know what that is?
Yes.
All right. We had to buy traveler's checks to travel. And in order to make any payment, we had to pay these traveler's checks. So when I went to the hotel, they asked for a credit card to cover my stay, in which case they could open up the phones. And I didn't have cell phones in those days. And certainly didn't have WhatsApp. So you had to make these calls from the hotel or go to some other public phone and make the call. But they will not open the phone lines for you. They will not allow you to buy a drink at the bar, except if you pay in cash. And that was the embarrassing thing that this young academic had to face when his colleagues coming in from other parts of the world even didn't have this problem. So when 1993 came, April 1993, we were liberated. And I don't want to go back to pre-1993. Little by little, we are going there. So because the banks are allowing you very little currency, that didn't happen before because of the foreign exchange problems. There's no law that says that they must only give you the 200. They don't have it to give it to you. And they are afraid to give it to you because they probably have a little warning from the central bank that they don't want this thing to get out of hand, because the foreign currency, we are taking away foreign currency every day and we are not putting it back. So we are gradually, you probably know that.
So then obviously, Professor Watson, this is just going to allow for the black market to boom in regards to foreign trade exchange.
Which business? The one in Jamaica? And that will not allow any, that I tell you, that is not going to have any major impact on what we're doing. The general situation that I described in Trinidad and Tobago, where foreign exchange is a problem, is going to allow the black market to prevail. And that is because the real rate of exchange, the true rate of exchange, I should say, is not $6.70, $6.80. The true rate of exchange is probably closer to about $12. And at this point in time, people are going to be willing to pay probably up to $12 for a US dollar. And they're probably paying less on the black market. I don't deal on the black market at all, but I am aware that they pay rates significantly higher than the, let's say, $7 that you can get at a bank. So because they want to conduct the business, and if I buy something for $1 US in America, and I pay $12, but when I come back I could sell it for $24, I will still do it because I am making money on the deal. If I cannot get anything because I'm only waiting on the bank to get it at $7, I am going to not make anything at all. And the merchant in the US is not going to accept Trinidad and Tobago dollars. So you need those US dollars. And yes, that black market will, and it's there. It's flourishing already. Yeah, they are very much aware of that. they probably know what the going rate on the black market is. You know who makes a lot of money? I shouldn't want to put them in this problem. The casinos, because a lot of people who are visiting from abroad go to the casinos to have an evening of fun and entertainment. And so when they pay in their US dollars, you have people like the casinos. God forgive me if I'm wrong. I am not. I'm not saying that is true. And I'm sorry. I don't mean to implicate the casinos in anything. They have a lot of US dollars, and anybody who gets money like that. There was a time when I was walking through Chaguanas, and I used to see signs. The signs are probably still there, but I haven't been walking a lot through Chaguanas, that they are going to accept the US dollar or the pound or the euro. That's illegal. I mean, I tell you, you're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to accept foreign currency because they are not legal tender. And I suspect they probably take down the signs because they cannot be advertising that they are doing something illegally. But I'm quite sure if I go there with $100 US, they are not going to tell me, boy, get the hell out of here. You want to put me in jail? They will never tell me that. You see, they're going to take my $100 US and give me change in TT dollars. They're very, very going to do that. They charge me at a certain rate, $7, so on. And yes, they were buying higher than the central bank, than the banks. They were buying at a rate that was higher. And I think the last time I saw it, we were still at around $6.40, $6.50. And they were buying at $7. So that was, you had an advantage in going to the merchant. And I am quite sure that there are many merchants who do this without making any noise about it. So that it is true that a black market is developing. But I'm here to speak about the Jamaica thing. It has nothing to do. That has nothing or very little to do. Although it may add a little, because now the Trinidad student, I imagine that it is a Trinidad student doing this thing. But it could be merchants as well who have, I mean, if I am buying goods from Jamaica and Jamaica is buying goods from me, we can trade in each other's currency. That can easily happen. To the extent that we are doing that's fine. But we are not doing that with everybody. And when the situation arises that kind of bartering, that's what it is, stops. And then the Bank of Jamaica has $100 million Trinidad dollars. They don't, and then they say, look, I want US dollars for this. Trinidad and Tobago could balk at that because, not at all. And that is where the problem is. But whatever the amount, it's a minuscule amount of what our trade with Jamaica is, with what our trade internationally is. So I am saying it's a storm in a teacup. There is some element of losing confidence in the Trinidad and Tobago economy. There is some confidence of losing faith in the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. But that is nothing. When you eventually hear that somebody says they're going to stop trading with you, now that is bad. But this issue is, and the way it is, I feel a lot of people are responding negatively because they don't understand it. They don't understand what some of the things I just said to you. That yes, it's not a nice thing and it shouldn't happen, but this is nothing compared to some of the things that can really happen to us. That's all.
Well, Professor Watson, we're out of time, but thank you very much for your generosity in informing us of this and giving us a different perspective, a different side as compared to what we have been hearing. So I appreciate your time in breaking this down and giving us some analysis this morning.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Take care. Professor Emeritus Patrick Kent Watson joining me this morning. Now, a key point, there were many key points, but there was one that was interesting because we focused a lot on trade. A lot of the reaction has been on trade and foreign exchange. In regards to the goods that Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica trade in, we pay each other in US currency, so it's not necessarily going to have much of an effect on trade. But there are other issues as well, of which Professor Patrick Watson was able to cover this morning. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on AM Prime. It's always a pleasure. Wishing you a good day ahead, a productive day, a safe one. And should things go good, I certainly hope they do. I'll see you again tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. I'm Keaton Shaw. Keep well.
WESN.
I'm Andre L. Batiste, and you're watching WESN, the content capital.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former Mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the home store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's. WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it.
It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.